How close were Manchester United to sacking Erik ten Hag this international break is revealed. Thomas Tuchel won't be Manchester United manager in the future. Transfer targets are not keen on joining in the future transfer window. Antony's price is set as more links of a January exit. PSG have renewed their interest in Rashford, and Alex Ferguson is banned from the United dressing room. What's that all about? That's what we've got coming up for you today in a rundown of all the latest Manchester United news and transfer news that will keep you right up to date with everything. Welcome to Man United Review. My name's Jamie. Before we get into it, please smash a like on the video and let's jump straight into it. So let's kick off with all the Erik ten Hag news. So Erik ten Hag didn't receive any communication from the club. The board never felt that they had to tell him something. They discussed about the situation and problems at the club. Manchester United insist that Erik ten Hag was never really close to being sacked during the international break. That came from Fabrizio Romano, kind of putting to bed all the noise that we kind of have been hearing over the last kind of week or two regarding his future and the big meeting and all the media kind of hype and frenzy regarding his future. Fabrizio Romano is saying that he wasn't really close. They've obviously discussed the situation, and that's it. There's not been so obviously we know that there was a big meeting, but that was a planned meeting in anyway, and all the rest, it just looks like it's just been media noise. Now, that doesn't mean to say, though, that he is still not under pressure, because I think he is still under pressure. We have to improve, but that's just natural anyway. When you're sat in the position that we are in the league, and we've had the start to the season, that's always going to be there. But so I do think he is still massively under pressure, but all the kind of noise, Romano said he was never close to being sacked this international break. And I do think that Dan Ashworth, Barada, Wilcox, they're the kind of decision makers, are allowing some times and are looking to put things in place around the manager, the support network and everything to give him a fighting chance. That's what I kind of think's been happening. But let me know what you think about that in the comments. Melissa Reddy from Sky also said that Manchester United have been very keen to be patient and offer Erik ten Hag time and support. So Melissa Reddy kind of confirming that as well, that they are going to be patient, but there's only so long that patience will last, I think, because we have to improve. We have to start getting performances. We can't be sat in the position that we are at the moment. That will not be tolerated, I don't think. But for the time being, it looks like all the stories over the last few weeks were just noise. And then Manchester United are still considering the future of Erik ten Hag. A United defeat by Brentford on Saturday could see him sacked. That came from the Daily Mail. But it's just the same kind of nonsense. Do you know what I mean? It's just like if we lose a game, it's just going to consistently be all this kind of noise around Ten Hag's future and stuff. And that's why I just hope we start performing well and we start picking up results. One, because I want that anyway as a fan, but then secondly, so all this noise can kind of go away, and we can just concentrate on what we should be looking for is how we improve the squad, the play style, and all of those sorts of things, rather than just consistently talking about the manager. But, it is what it is. We can only kind of go off of what's in the media and the news at the time. But yeah, interesting kind of updates. So if we do lose, it's going to be uproar. And then if we win a game, it'll be quiet. But then if we lose, as soon as we lose a game from now on, it's just going to all be about Erik ten Hag and stuff. So we're just going to have to see how it goes. I'm of the opinion still with the Ten Hag situation is, we've got the people in place, right? That we've got Dan Ashworth, Wilcox, Omar Barada. They're all around the place and they'll have eyes to see actually what is going on. And I'll trust them to make that kind of decision, because what I mean there is if they know, or if they're looking at it and Ten Hag's doing everything right on the training pitch, he's doing the right preparation, he's doing the right team talks and preparing the team and everything. And if the players are just going on the pitch and not following his instructions, then that's not necessarily Ten Hag's fault. And they'll be there observing that. Or is it a player issue? Do you know what I mean? Is there support that we need to put in place for the players to help them mentally? Or, they'll be observing all of these things. and they'll be able to make the right kind of decision. There will come a time, though, that even with the best laid plans and the best preparations and stuff, still there might come a time, though, where the players are not following the instructions, where you might have to make that decision. But they're all around the place, so they'll be the best people to kind of make a judgment on that. And we're just going to have to go with the flow and see how we get on, see how we perform, and see what happens. Let me know what you think about that, though, in the comments. Now, one manager that's not going to be coming, Thomas Tuchel, unless you've been living under a rock. Literally at the time of recording this video, I think he's doing his England press conference because Thomas Tuchel is set to become the new England manager. Thomas Tuchel has completed the agreement to become new England manager. Terms agreed, contract set to be signed with an official statement expected soon. Tuchel opened doors to England job in July and is now a done deal. The Times reported it, but that came from Fabrizio Romano. And like I said, literally there's a press conference happening at the time of recording this video. So one manager, that will not be replacing Erik ten Hag if he was to get sacked in the future will be Thomas Tuchel, because he is now the new England manager. I don't know what the Manchester Evening News are going to write about now, because they have literally just been talking about Tuchel for the last 2 weeks solid and how he's coming in. So they're going to need to find other stories to kind of keep them going, because literally it's just been Tuchel stories in that particular outlet over the last few weeks. But it's one of those, isn't it? He was always believed to have been Jim Ratcliffe's favourite, but not necessarily Ashworth's favourite for the job, and he's ultimately the decision maker now. He's the one that's going to be kind of making these sort of footballing decisions. Tuchel's a good manager. I would have taken him at United, but I don't think he's the right manager for this particular moment, because we're in the middle of a rebuild, and I don't think he's got the patience for a rebuild, because he seems to be a manager that wants things his own way, and I don't think that's necessarily what we need at the moment, because we are going to go down an avenue of bringing in a lot of younger players and players to fit a particular style of play and a system, which I don't necessarily think Tuchel would have been ideal for. But let me know what you think about that in the comments. Now, so 2 recent transfer targets for Manchester United are having second thoughts about joining the club after seeing Erik ten Hag's side sink to 14th in the Premier League and the manager face more uncertainty over his future. Now, Chris Wheeler from the Daily Mail, who's a good source, suggesting that some of our future transfer targets are now having second thoughts about joining United because of the league position and then also the uncertainty surrounding the manager. Now, it didn't name names, and that's interesting. But then also, if players don't want to come to United, then I don't care. If they don't want to come for whatever reason, then I'm not really bothered, because I only want players here that want to actually be at United and not for any other reason. And they are going to be having doubts because, our play style's inconsistent. Our league performances has been terrible. There is all this uncertainty surrounding the manager as well. So I can understand why players would have reservations about coming to United right now. But then are they the right players that we should be going for anyway? In my opinion, not. So if players are having second thoughts and doubts, then in my mind, they're not the right players to bring into the club anyway, in my opinion. But interesting though that it is starting to kind of creep in or be known that some players potentially are now having reservations about joining United. It's an interesting kind of thought and interesting story, but for me, I don't really care. If you don't want to be here, you don't want to be here, and I wouldn't want to sign you anyway if that's the kind of case. We've been down that road before, signing players that didn't necessarily want to be here, but were here for wages and money, and it hasn't worked out very well in the past. So if it means we miss out on some transfer targets because they have reservations, then they're not the right sort of players we should be signing anyway. We want to kind of, in my opinion anyway, be signing players that do want to play for Manchester United, not just play for a manager or pay for a wage, in my opinion. But let me know yours in the comments. Be interesting to hear what you think about that. Now, TalkSport have said that Christian Erikson is unlikely to be staying at Manchester United beyond the season. Beyond the end of the season, despite his recent first-team revival. So there's a few more stories. He's out of contract in the summer. I don't think United and Ineos are going to want to renew Christian Erikson's contract, regardless of the fact that he has actually been playing really well this season. So it is what it is. He's kind of, it's probably going to work out in our favour actually, because he's putting himself in the shop window, and sometimes that's good for us. I remember, was it Willian who always used to perform in the seasons where his contract was running out at Chelsea, and then at was it Fulham? I think he went to Fulham and he was doing outstanding whenever he was out of contract, had an absolutely blistering 6 months, and then would get a new contract and then be terrible again for a while after that. So if we have a bit of a Willian effect with Erikson, then fair play. But I do think it's the right time to move him on in the summer because of his age, not because of his quality, but yeah, it is what it is with Erikson, with him being out of contract. But let me know what you think in the comments. Now, there's been loads of talk over the last few days regarding Antony. So, Chris Wheeler, again, good source, said that Manchester United are open to letting Antony go out on loan in January to help secure a permanent move for him next summer. The club would listen to offers of around £40 million for the Brazilian. So it's not the first story we've had over the last few days regarding Antony and a possible exit in January. That one makes more sense to me alone, with some kind of option to buy or putting him in the shop market or in the shop window to potentially try and sell on next summer. Makes way more sense because I don't think we're going to have any buyers for Antony in January. But doing that kind of deal, would probably be a good solution because, one, if he performs well, he can increase his value. But then also if you can get a loan with some kind of option or obligation to buy as well, that would be a good deal. If we get £40 million for Antony, and whoever negotiates that deal would deserve a statue at Old Trafford. There ain't no way we're getting £40 million for Antony. £40 million is what we should have paid for Antony had we had competent owners at the time that were efficient, not the 85 that we ended up paying for him, which was ridiculous. And he's not exactly gone up in value neither in the time at United. So I think if we would be very lucky, I think between 20-25 million for me for Antony, considering his performances and stuff. So a loan, yeah, not a bad shout. Send him out on loan. See how he kind of gets on. See if we can get some offers for him then in the summer if you do want to move him on, because it's clearly not worked out for him at United, and he's on what, 200 grand a week as well, which is a massive amount for effectively fourth choice winger. But the issue with that is the depth. Like, you can't be letting Antony go though in January if you're not going to bring in anybody in, because we've obviously let Pellistri go, we've let Greenwood go, we've let Sancho go. So our only four wingers really, Ahmad, Antony, Rashford, and Garnacho. So if you're going to let him go, then maybe that's a key tell in a position that we might be looking to strengthen in the January transfer window, bringing in like another forward or another winger, because I don't think Bruno plays particularly well on the right. We can't trust Mason Mount to be fit, so he's not a viable option there as well. And they're the only really other players that I can see playing in that kind of position. I mean, maybe he could play Xerxes there, but again, don't think he's suited to play on the wing. So that could be a tell. So we did see Antony go, and if the rumours do start kind of creeping up around him, a potential January exit, then that would suggest to me that maybe we are looking to bring in either a replacement or potentially promote somebody from the youth team as well, which would be one to keep an eye on. But let me know what you think about that in the comments. And then another player that's been linked with a, not for January, but a future move away from the club is Marcus Rashford. Paris Saint-Germain have renewed their interest in Manchester United star Marcus Rashford, but the hurdles that blocked a summer transfer for the winger still remain in place. Team Talk can exclusively reveal. Manchester United star Rashford was the subject of transfer interest from PSG as the French giants, who were looking to find a replacement for Kylian Mbappe after he joined Real Madrid in June, eyed a £75 million move for the forward. Despite United's reluctance to sell the 26-year-old who signed a contract until 2028 with the Old Trafford side last year, Team Talk sources understand that the League One team are still considering swooping for Rashford next year. Now, that came from Team Talk, who are a gossip rumour outlet, so I do normally say take those stories with a pinch of salt, but Rudy Galetti is one of their more credible journalists, not the most credible, but one of their more credible journalists that works for Team Talk anyway, suggesting that effectively PSG might come back in the summer transfer window for Marcus Rashford. There was obviously rumours this summer about him potentially going when we were in negotiations with Ugarte. There was talk of Rashford and potentially Sancho or going to PSG. So he does look like he might be a player of interest to Paris Saint-Germain. And I suppose the obvious question to ask you, to let me know in the comments below, would you sell Rashford to PSG in the summer? For me, it would depend on how he performs this season, because we know that with Barada and everyone like that, they have like a 2-year mantra. Players don't perform well within 2 years, then they're going to look to move them on, because Barada, that was his kind of deal at City is that you've got 2 years to kind of perform, otherwise you're going to get moved on. So gone are the days, I think, where we're going to hold players that are underperforming, hopefully anyway. That's what I want to see. I think that's the right approach. Do you know what I mean? Because a year to bed in and then a second season to kind of show what you're all about should be the kind of right approach if you're signing players. And if you overstep the mark or you don't perform within that time, then you're not the right player that we need. So massive pressure on Rashford this season to kind of perform, because obviously last season was terrible. Season before that was good. And I actually think he's had a reasonable start to the season. Not outstanding, not as bad as some people kind of make him out to be though either. But yeah, interesting one. So let me know in the comments if you would sell Rashford to PSG next summer. For me, it would just depend on how he kind of performs this season. If we can see the Marcus Rashford from a couple of years ago, then probably not. But if he's anywhere like last season, then yeah, I think the time would be to move him on personally. But let me know what your thoughts on that in the comments. And then obviously the news yesterday was regarding Sir Alex Ferguson and having his kind of ambassador role, or relieving him of his ambassador role and kind of, effectively axing him from his position as a part of a cost-cutting mission by Ineos. And then this story came out today. So Sir Alex Ferguson and the Manchester United Football Board have been asked not to enter the dressing room at Old Trafford, breaking a tradition that stretches back to the days of Sir Matt Busby. United deny that they have directly banned Ferguson from the changing room, but say there is now a collective understanding of who goes inside. Visits to the dressing room have been part of the club's culture for decades. Ferguson and fellow club board members David Gill and Mike Edelson were always welcome, as were Sir Bobby Charlton and former director Maurice Watkins before they passed away. So that came from the Daily Mail. I mean, the headline, as you can imagine, was Fergie banned. I don't necessarily think it's as deep as that, and it's not just Alex Ferguson, and the United have denied the fact that they're kind of banned. Effectively, what they're saying is they don't want directors and stuff in the dressing room as well, which is an interesting. I kind of had mixed opinions on that, because obviously they're part of the club. Do you know what I mean? They're involved and stuff, but then is it also a case that it might be unnerving for the players and that as well? Do you know what I mean? And lead them to maybe feel a little bit more nervous, or a little bit like, I can kind of see the pros and cons to both of that. I don't necessarily think it needs to be a drama like it's being made out to be in Ferguson Band and all that stuff. Do you know what I mean? At the end of the day, the football dressing room should be for tactics, and the players as a kind of place where they can go to prepare for games or unwind after games and do whatever. Do you know what I mean? So I'm not necessarily particularly bothered if the directors and stuff are not allowed in the dressing room. It makes no difference to me. But you can let me know what you think about that in the comments. But the funniest story, I'll just bring you right, is regarding Cantton On's reaction to the whole Sir Alex Ferguson issue yesterday. So on his Instagram page, he put out the following: Alex Ferguson should be able to do anything he wants at the club until the day he dies. Such a lack of respect. It's totally scandalous. So Alex Ferguson will be my boss forever, and I throw them all a big bag of shit. That came from Erik Cantona regarding the whole Sir Alex Ferguson kind of situation and stuff. If it was all done amicably, I'm not particularly bothered that he's, if he was bothered about it, then it would be a kind of big deal for me. The fact is, he's still allowed to attend games and still be at the club and stuff. Do you know what I mean? But I don't think it's as big a drama as what they're trying to make it out to be personally. But you can disagree with that in the comments, or you can agree. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your thoughts on everything discussed in today's video, because that is you all up to date with the latest transfer news and Manchester United news. Don't forget to smash a like on the video on your way out. Subscribe to the channel if you are new, and I will see you in the next one.